All right, how about now? Now we should have sound. Good grief. I'm sorry about that, guys. I just went through a whole bunch. I was having all kinds of issues tonight trying to uh anyway, issues, but yeah, we're good now. Okay. All right, let me start this all over again. I'll just kind of explain what happened here. I got connected, like I normally do, got connected ahead of time, got things set up, got ready to go. Forgot to plug in my microphone apparently. Forgot to even take my microphone out and put it on the stand and get it going. But anyhow, then I started having connection issues, and it said I was not connected to live chat, couldn't reconnect me to live chat. So, long story short, we're here, we're good to go. So, let's start all over with disclaimers. This is the weekly live broadcast, Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. Almost every Thursday, this is where we're at, 7 o'clock Central. Sometimes things happen, I can't make it. The only things I ask from you guys is be polite, be family friendly. Otherwise, this is just a session for me to go through. I try to do my best to respond to all the chat that comes in during the live broadcast itself. And that's it. Just like I said, be polite. You guys can talk to each other as much as you want. Don't worry about that. Just don't cuss at each other. Don't call each other names. Don't be hateful or rude. And we'll be good. All right. Hey, Linda, good to see you. And Andy Rabbit, hello to you. Who's this? Hi in the bread aisle says, good afternoon. Excited for this one. This one personally. Evening where I'm at. Yeah, it's evening here too. Let's see. Linda says, yes, here too. We're in Texas. And let's see. Hi, in Bread Isles in Mississippi. Andy says it's evening where I am also. Yeah, Andy's another Show Me Stater in Missouri. Miss Kitty from Utah. Good to see you. And let's see. And Hi in the Bread Isle says it has lots of questions. Well, I'm here to answer hopefully all of them. I'll do my best. And if I can't, we got a lot of people in this live chat that come here all the time that are really smarter than I am. So they'll be able to answer that question if I can't. Let's see. I'm going to skip a few of these. Hello to you, Tony. Good to see you. And then Hi in the Bread House says, I'm not going to rush though. I'll wait here and there. So excited though, my first hatch. Well, good luck with your first hatch. I don't know if it's happened yet or not, but good luck or congratulations, whichever one is due. I'm sure it's going to go great. And yeah, I agree, Andy. Nothing like your first hatch, right? All right. Let's see. Jam and Mike, good to see you. Eating boneless barbecue chicken. Well, that doesn't sound that well. Doesn't sound bad. It's better with the bone in my opinion. But it could be a lot worse. That sounds pretty good actually. Jesse, good to see you, Jesse. Hope you're doing well. Justin says, anyone know about ducks? I have a trio of mallards. How do I keep them from flying away? Lots of food. And yeah, Andy's saying clipping their wing feathers. That's probably a good idea. And now we got all these people telling me they can't hear me, but that was a while back. So I think we're good now. Anyway, let me get back here. So yeah, keep them fed. Clipping their wings is not a bad idea. That would keep them from flying, period. So, there's that. As long as they have a water source and food, though, they're likely to kind of hang around if they're domesticated ducks. That would be my thought on it. But somebody else may have a better idea on how to keep ducks around and keep them from flying away. Hey, there's Ed. Ed got bait. Good to see you. Bella, Brian, Rogers Rabbitry, all you guys, Larson's Farms. Did I miss any? Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. Linda says, Justin, we gave my daughter. Justin. Who's Justin? I don't know. Let me read the rest of it and see if it makes sense. Okay, Justin, we gave my daughter all our drakes. She pinned them up in a 10 by 10 kennel for a week and then left them out on her pond, and they stick around. Well, there you go. All right, now I'm down to where everybody says they can hear me. Jam and Mike says 5 by 5. I don't know what that means. Oh, well. Sage Wolf's from Ohio. Good to see you. And Joy from Oregon. Good to see you. And Alfred says, hey, Chris, what do you think about Celadon quails? I mean, any kind of quail, your jumbo pharaohs, your white birds, your Italians, any of those could be a Celadon bird. It's just a gene that causes them to lay a blue-green egg. So it could happen. I mean, it's not like a specific breed of quail or a specific type of quail. It's really just the blue egg. That's the only difference from that and any other bird. So Honestly, I think they're just as good as any other bird. I don't have any preference on them. I used to think the blue-green eggs were kind of cool because they were kind of new and kind of unique. Now I don't really care that much. I have one Celadon bird out there somewhere. I don't know which one it is because they look just like all the rest of them. But I do get a blue-green egg from them. So I think, I mean, it's kind of neat. It's a different colored egg. It's kind of cool. But there's nothing different about them than any other bird. So, I mean, if that's what you're asking me, hopefully that kind of answers it. Renee from Fountain, Florida. Good to see you. Brian says, how are your quail doing? Mine are doing great. No problems whatsoever. I had another terrible hatch. After replacing the part on the little giant, but I think it may be I was running it pretty low temperature because my thermometers said that it was higher. So I think that may be the issue. I got to get in there and mess with it a little bit. It could be the heating. Who knows? I'll figure it out. But I got 6 birds that hatched. So I got 6 birds about 3 days old out in the brooder box. And we're going to be down in the 20s over the next couple of nights. So we're going to see if they make it. Hopefully they do. They're in the brooder box. Got the heat lamps on, but that's awful cold to try to keep them warm. We'll see. But the birds that are outside, the youngest ones I got outside are about 4 or 5 weeks old, so they're fine. They're handling it just fine, no problem. Justin says, I want to save the eggs to hatch out, but I don't want them flying away. Talking about the ducks? I think that's what we're talking about. That's who Justin is. I think I missed maybe one of your earlier comments. Well, are we still talking about ducks? Let me see. Was there? I don't see it. You may be talking about. Oh, wait. There we go. It was you talking about the ducks. I'm sorry. I got you mixed up with somebody else. Now I'm with us. So you want to keep the eggs from the ducks. You want to hatch them out, but you don't want them flying away. You got a couple of suggestions there. You could pin them up for a little while, let them know. I think once they figure out that it's home and you're feeding them, you're providing them with their food, they're probably going to stick around unless there's something, really harassing them that's going to make them want to leave. I don't think you're going to have too much of a problem with it. Rogers Rabbitry says, hello, Dexter, Missouri. Got 120 eggs in a little giant. Monday is hatch day. Well, good luck on your hatch. I hope it goes well. Hi in the Bread Owl says, good evening, Chris. Following since 2018, I finally did it. My first hatch, 20 of 30 little ones. I'll chime in from time to time if that's fine. Yeah, it's perfectly all right. Ask as many questions as you want. We'll do our best to get them answered for you. Congratulations on your hatch, 20 of 30. That's not bad at all. That's pretty good. You should be proud of it. So good job. Fran Crow says, hey, Chris, I have an outside quail hutch like you. Question is, do we need to put a tarp on the underneath the side that is enclosed, the screen bottom? Oh, wait, underneath the side that is all enclosed. Okay, hang on. Let me read that again. Do we need to put a tarp on the underneath the side that is all enclosed, the screen bottom? Okay, so I'm a little bit confused here. Let me make sure I get this right. On my hutch, the part that's enclosed, I have a solid bottom on it and a sandbox. So I have a plywood floor and a 2x4 that sits up on the side, and I fill it with sand. So that's their sandbox. They can get in there and get in the sand. So no, I don't put a tarp under it. Now, if yours is all wire all the way across, I would suggest putting a sandbox in there because of a couple of reasons. One, the quail really enjoy the sandbox. They like it quite a bit. It will provide them with that windbreak coming up from underneath the hutch. If they need to get out of the weather, they can do it in there because it's already closed in on all of their sides. Plus, they'll lay most of their eggs in there, and the eggs come out way cleaner, incredibly clean when they're laid in a sandbox. You could, try to put a tarp under there and see if that would work, but I think a sandbox would be a better way to go about that. That's just the way I do it, though. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, ask again or another way, we'll get it answered. Renee says, what do you think about a dirt floor walk-in cage for the quail? Yeah, nothing wrong with a dirt floor. Quail will do fine on a dirt floor. You may end up having to, clean it up quite a bit depending on how many birds you have and how big of a section. I don't run an aviary, but that's kind of sounds like what you're wanting to do is run an aviary style. You said a dirt floor walk-in style cage. So that kind of sounds like an aviary. I know there's a couple of people in here that have run aviary. Sorry, I got distracted by another comment. Time and Timber just did a video. She had a live broadcast on Facebook. I think it was posted, and it's on her channel. You can go look at her aviary setup where she's got a bunch of birds in a walk-in cage with a dirt floor, basically. I think she may have some straw or some hay in there. I don't know. And I know there's a couple other people that have run aviaries in here, so they can kind of talk to you about it. But you don't want to overcrowd them in an aviary because it's going to get dirty really quickly, and you're going to have to do a lot of cleaning. But as long as you keep them fairly, I don't know exactly what spacing you would need. In a wire cage, we usually go one bird per square foot, or really it's probably more like one per half a square foot, something like that. And that works fine in a wire bottom cage. But in an aviary style, you're probably going to want to go more like one bird for every 4 or 5 square feet. That would be my guess. But somebody else can speak to that probably a little better because I haven't run aviaries. But it'll work. You can do it. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with it. Dawn says, let's see, from Central. Oh, talking to Andy Rabbit. Says, thanks to Andy Rabbit for telling you about the lie because you made it for the first time. Well, thanks for joining. We appreciate that. Andrew from Texas, good to see you. And Brian, let's see, I have a California quail and Caturnix quails. Do they get cold if they don't have any light source? No. Well, I mean, they may get cold, but they don't need a light source necessarily. The only reason you're going to want to put a light source on them. Now, I can't speak to California quail on how hardy they are or anything. I haven't kept them. I can speak to Caturnix quail. The only reason you're going to want to put a light source on them is if you want to continue to get them to keep laying eggs. That's the only thing it's used for. It's just to keep them laying eggs into the wintertime. Because once they get down below about 14 hours of daylight, they shut down, and the days get shorter right now. I think we're only at like just a little over 11 hours of daylight today, I believe. And so they're not going to lay eggs unless you have an external light on them that extends that daylight up to about 14 to 16 hours, somewhere right around in there. That'll keep them laying. It has nothing to do with the temperature, though. They're incredibly cold hardy. They're going to do just fine. We get well below zero here at times, and I've never had a problem with my birds. They do fine. As long as they have a way to get out of the wind, you don't need a separate heat source or anything like that on them. They're going to be fine. Jam Mike says 5x5 is sound is good. How we say on when watching another YouTuber live stream if they ask. Oh, gotcha. Okay. I didn't know that. It shows how technical I am with this stuff, I guess. Justin says the Little Giant incubator is very cheap. Yeah, well, I've used the Little Giant incubator for, good grief, the last 10 years and get great hatch rates out of it. But it's just been the last 4 or 5 that I had problems with it. I actually narrowed it down to, I thought for sure it was Miller Manufacturing, the company that makes Little Giant. I called them and they thought for sure it was a temperature controller. Sent me a brand new one free of charge, no charge. So now I'm starting to question. I don't know. I'll bump it up in temperature a little bit. Unfortunately, it's kind of that time of year where I probably won't be doing any more hatching. So it may be spring before I find out if it's working well or not. But we'll find out. It is a fairly cheap incubator, but it works. So I use it. I keep using it now. Who knows? If I keep having bad hatches, it may be time for me to look at getting a new incubator. We'll see. Andrew Bailey says, Alfred. Sorry, Alfred says, appreciate your response from San Francisco, California. Trying 12 Caturnix right now, all for eggs. Just passed by your channel 2 months ago now. I have quails and homemade cage. Really? So you passed by my channel 2 months ago, and now you have the quail and the homemade cage. So I started something there, didn't I? I don't know if I should apologize or congratulate you. Either way, hopefully they're all doing well. Andrew says, my 9-week-old quail just started laying about 5 days ago, so really excited. That is awesome. That's about right for him. 9 weeks is maybe a little bit on the long side, but not bad. Usually you're looking at about 8 weeks ago. Well, 5 days ago. Yeah, so you're right on track. Yeah, so that's good. Congratulations. Well, see, Andy said, I just ordered some Celadon eggs yesterday. Good. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with Celadons at all. They're pretty cool. Sundial Fragrance sniff recommendations. That's a long name there. But anyway, says, hello from Texas. Like this video, y'all. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. How did I do with my Texas y'all? Is that okay? Did I do okay? I lived in Texas for about 8 years, but I didn't quite pick up the I didn't quite do the pick up the accent. So let's see. Manny says, I have a rabbit that is a male. He has pulled all his hair out of his neck and doesn't stop drinking water. It's all wet under his chin. Oh no. Okay. That sounds like, boy, there could be a couple of issues there, and I can't think of what it would be right offhand. Losing hair around his neck, I'm guessing you mean underneath there. That could be a fungal infection of some kind, It could be mites, probably not mites. Probably I would lean more towards fungal infection. Why he's drinking water all the time, that's a little bit of a concern to me. That may indicate some kind of diarrhea or something like that with him. Unfortunately, I mean, there's just too many things that it could be for me to be able to diagnose it over, just a comment on a video here. So I don't have great advice for you on that. It would probably take a vet to really diagnose it. I would look up, how to treat like fungal infections in rabbits. That's a pretty common area where if you're going to have that kind of problem, it would be right there under their neck, their chin, their dewlap area. So I don't know. Somebody else may have some really good advice in here that's just kind of passing me by right now, but that's the first thing that comes to mind. Wet under his chin all the time would lead to fungus, kind of like think athlete's foot or anything like that. Let me think if there's anything else that kind of comes to mind. I don't know what kind of diet you're feeding. That may have something to do with it, but my guess would be, a lot of times when you see hair loss in rabbits, it's mites of some kind that could be causing that. But if it's just under his neck, he's pulled the fur out, that's probably going to be like some kind of fungus, maybe ringworm, something like that. Those are the things that kind of come to mind right offhand. Hopefully you get it figured out. I'm sorry I can't help you more with that. It's just kind of, there's a whole lot of different things it could be. Kentucky Green Thumb, good to see you. Let's see. Fran says, let's see, our enclosed area is a screen bottom, so I'll put in a sandbox. Thanks. Well, you're absolutely welcome. And I would say, if you're going to put a sandbox in there and it's all screened, you may want to put it in a way where you can from the bottom up. Now, I did go ahead and remove my I initially screened the whole thing and then put a piece of plywood underneath it, filled that with sand, but all the hardware cloth rusted out and it became a huge issue. So I would suggest, putting a piece of plywood underneath it rather than trying to set a sandbox on top of the wire. It's going to get pretty heavy and it may start to sag your wire and it may even pull the staples and things like that out. So it may be good to remove the wire from that half of the box, put a piece of plywood underneath it, some 2x4s or something to kind of hold the sand in place. You can screw those to the bottom of the case. You don't have to worry about it falling down or anything like that. And then you can fill it with sand. So that'd be my suggestion on that, but you can figure it out. You can do it. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. You could suspend a sandbox from the ceiling so you don't have to worry about it putting too much weight on the floor. That would be another way to do it. All right. Andy says, finished my cage build and got it moved to the place and all the quail moved in. It has a sandbox on one end. I need to add a taller stop board on the door of the sandbox. It falls out when I open it. Oh, yeah, the sand comes out when you open it. Yeah, and one thing I noticed too with my sandboxes, they do kick that sand all over the place. So, if you're going to put a sandbox in, you want it to be a fairly good size one. If you just put a small box in there, they just kick all the sand out of it. It doesn't take any time whatsoever. So a fairly good size sandbox is probably a good way to go about that. But you do need fairly high sides because otherwise you're going to have the sand come out. And I get sand in my door. When I pull the door down, there's always sand right there. And I have to scrape it out pretty frequently or it makes the door lopsided where it doesn't want to close. So that's something I have to do quite frequently. But anyway, it's not a big deal. It's pretty easy to do. It's just, it has to be done. All right, Bianca says, hey, Chris, finally caught another one of your lives again. Excuse me. Choked on my own saliva. Says, finally caught another one of your lives again. Big hi from Perth, Australia. Agree on the sandbox. The eggs come out clean. We use 2 boxes, one for sand and one for pine shavings, and works great. Well, there you go. There's another way to do it, too. That makes perfect sense. Make sure that's not urgent. Nope, we're good. Let's see. Hi, in the bread aisle. 20 of 30 was great. Thank you. However, had 2 born as splay leg chicks. What do you typically do for those? 1 since has passed. I'm currently at day 6. Yeah, you're probably not going to like this. You can try to fix it, but honestly, what I would suggest is call it out. There's not going to be, most of the time they don't survive anyway. It's very hard to get fixed unless you catch it really, really quick. And to try to fix it, you can do it a couple of different ways. Put them in like a shot glass, or I've used pieces of PVC pipe. You stick the bird in there to where it forces their legs under them and leave them there for like 12 hours or so. Sometimes that'll take care of that. You could build splints for them that would force their legs underneath them, but that's kind of tricky to do and hard to do. But my suggestion or my thought is most of the time they're not going to make it anyway. And not only that, but that could indicate some kind of genetic issue with the bird. Probably not. It's probably more like a temperature issue. That they were probably late hatches. And a lot of times those late hatches that maybe where the temperature's a little bit low, like you had a cool spot in your incubator or something, those birds, they're just a little too weak and they don't get their tendons stretched out well because it took them a long time to hatch because it was a little bit cooler there, maybe even just a degree or two cooler. It takes them a while to get out of the egg. They're a little bit weaker, so they can't get their legs underneath them. It could be caused by also if you have them on a slick surface, they can't get traction on. So make sure you're not lining your brooder box with like newspaper or something like that. That could cause it. Anyway, there's a lot of different things that can cause it. My suggestion, though, most of the time is call those birds out, especially if it's only one or two out of the whole hatch. Because if it is a genetic issue, you don't want that passed on to other birds. You want to just remove that from your breeding pool, so to speak. And they don't usually make it anyway. So that would be my suggestion. Let's see. We got, hopefully that helps a little bit. Is it Cyanok? Hopefully I pronounced your name right. From Ireland. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Bradley James. Good to see you. I was just thinking about you today. Was wondering how I haven't talked to you in a while. I was wondering how you were doing. It says, anyway, what do I do about my week-old rabbits getting out of the box? And is it okay to move mom and the babies? Yeah, it should be fine to move them. As far as like getting out of the box at a week old, that's not a huge concern, honestly. A week old's a little bit early, but chances are what I usually find with rabbits is I'll find one or two that maybe get out of the box. More than likely what's happened is they were nursing, mom jumped out of the box, they got pulled out when she jumped out, because they're not usually big enough by a week old to really get out. So what I do is pick them up, put them back in the box, and usually by about 10 days old they're okay to get in and out on their own. So then I just let them get in and out on their own whenever they want to. But up to that point, whenever I go out there and check if there's a rabbit out of the box, I pick it up, put it back in the nest box. That's it. And you said, is it okay to move the mom and the babies? Yeah, it's fine to move them. If you want to like move them all to another cage, that's perfectly all right. You should be fine doing that. Brian says, what's a good source of food for quails? Check, like what I feed a crumble feed. I feed game bird starter to all my birds. If you can't find a game bird starter at one of your local farm supply stores, or I would avoid going to like big box stores like Tractor Supply because usually their prices are pretty high. And it's hard to find game bird starter there anyway. You can use turkey starter. It's almost the same thing. But if you can't find game bird starter, turkey starter is a good option, or just a game bird grower maintainer, or a turkey feed, turkey crumble. Those are all good. They have very similar protein requirements and whatnot, so those would be good. Try to get something that's over 20% protein is what you want. Somewhere around 20% is fine when they're older. When they're young, when they're babies, they really need a little bit higher protein. I feed all my birds a 30% game bird starter. That's what they get from the time they hatch to the time they go on the dinner plate or wherever they're at. And I've got birds that are several years old, and that's all they've ever had is 30% game bird starter. But you can drop that down and get away with 22% or 20% even. They'll do fine on that. Hopefully that gave you an answer. I think if you were looking for a good source to get them from, you can check online, but usually the prices are going to be really high because they're heavy and it costs a lot to ship that. If you can find a local farm supply store, a feed store, something like that, even if they don't have it, ask them if they can order it in for you, because usually they can get it ordered in. Like I have my feed store here order in 19% rabbit pellet. I like a little bit higher percentage rabbit protein on my rabbit pellets than what they carry normally, but they just have it delivered along with their regular. It doesn't cost anything extra. So that's a good, just check with them and see what they can get. Sundial says, let's see, my quail is 7 weeks old tomorrow, still no eggs, added extra light and separated some roosters. We had an aggressive situation. I'm guessing way too many roosters. Now they crow like crazy. Yeah, they will crow like crazy, for sure. Especially, at 7 weeks old tomorrow, that's about the time. The roosters are way more sensitive than hens are. They're going to start crowing before your hens start laying eggs. You're only at 7 weeks old. As long as you're getting eggs by like 10 weeks old and you've got light on them, that's right on track. Usually around 8 weeks, but some of them are a little bit slow. You said you've got light on them, so don't move them around a whole lot. Leave them alone. Don't stress them out. Give them some time. Within the next week or two, they should start laying. You're just right on track, really. And she says my y'all accent is fine. Well, thank you very much. I never picked up y'all, and I never picked up fixin' to either. That was two things that I heard in Texas all the time. I never picked up. Nick says, hey, Chris, we're in the spring here in Sydney, Australia, and 2 of the 4 quail hens aren't laying. No predators, young, and all seem happy. What the problem could be? Oh, boy. Okay, so let's see. You're in spring. Are your days long enough? Are they 14 to 16 hours a day of light? Because it could be that. And how long has it been that way? You said you're in springs. It takes them a little bit of time to get to where they start laying when you go into spring. When the days get longer, it's not just an immediate, like tomorrow, 14 hours, they're going to start laying eggs. Usually it takes a couple of weeks for them to really start going. And what you'll see is usually they'll lay an egg maybe one day and then not the next. They'll be a little sporadic for about a week, and then they'll get into a regular laying cycle as long as they have the same amount of light. Somebody once said in here that it's harder to get them to start laying again than it is to keep them laying. And I agree with that. It is. It just takes a little bit of time for them to get going. So you may just have to be patient, give them a little bit more time, and see if you've had 14 hours a day of light for the last month and they're still not laying. Well, that there could be other things going on. The other thing, and you're right on track, you said no predators or anything. The other thing, stress factors. Stress factors will keep them from laying as well. So if they don't feel comfortable there for some reason or another, I would think if it was going to be a predator causing that, it would have to be really constant predator pressure. So it's probably not that. If you're moving them around a lot from one cage to another, that can stress them out, and they'll stop laying for that reason too, or not start laying for that reason too. But chances are, just give them a little bit of time. They'll start laying, I'm sure. And I'm not sure how you know that 2 of the 4 aren't laying, because it may be a situation where they're all laying, but they're just in that sporadic laying situation right now. So you're getting 2 eggs a day, and it may be like you got 4 birds. So maybe this one's laying every day and the other 3 are just laying every other day or every 2 days or whatever. So you're still getting 2 eggs a day, but it's not necessarily that 2 of them are not laying. They're just real sporadic. So that would be my thoughts on that. But I may be wrong. We'll see. Give them a little bit of time there. They'll probably pick up. Blessed with pets. Good to see you. Late again, but that's okay. We don't keep track of that. It's fine. Andy says, let's see. I put my door in the sandbox to open sideways. It's just for better that way. Okay, well, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying you're wrong at all, but my experience with the reason I have my doors open down instead of sideways or up is because it's just way easier for me to keep the birds inside when, especially younger birds that are all excited whenever you go open the bird, the hutch up or the cage, it's easier for me to keep the birds inside. I had doors that opened up one time, and when you try to open those, or even sideways, it's like all the birds come piling out as soon as you pull the door, and you can't get your hands in there fast enough to get them to stop. So that was the hard part I had with that. That's why I chose my doors to open down. You may not have problems with that, especially if you've got a fairly high lip on the front of the cage. That will keep the birds in too. So that may not be an issue. Blessed with Pets says, guess what? Got new rabbits. Well, awesome. Congratulations. I know you've been working on getting that for a while. So congratulations. To live is to suffer says, I had a splayed leg chick. I just put a leg band on each leg with a piece of elastic holding the legs together, but with enough length to walk. It recovered fine and is still running around 2 years later. Yeah, it can be done. It can be fixed. It's just not always. It's kind of tricky. And it seems like my success rate's probably around, I don't know, all the birds I've tried to fix splayed leg on, it's probably around 30%, something like that. 70% of them never get fixed and 30% of them do. But Brian says, do you think 18% is good or not? I assume we're talking about birds. 18% is okay. I prefer a little bit higher. I think they do better with 20% or higher, but 18% will do. If that's what you can get, it'll work. Don't worry about it. Blessed with Pets is a breeding pair of pedigree Holland Lops, and she's already bred 2 to 3 weeks pregnant, and we'll have her second litter, $75 for the pair. They're beautiful, and I love them. Well, congratulations. That sounds great. And those are a highly sought-after pet breed. So if you got some good pedigree rabbits, you can probably sell the babies and make your money back pretty quick. Hi, in the bread aisle says, I bought the Inkbird 308 Wi-Fi, but put simply, I cannot figure it out. Do you have a current how-to video or could you find the time to create one? What should I do to figure this out? Oh, you can actually do a Google search and look up the manual if you didn't get the manual and read it. It's not really that hard, but it can be tricky if you don't know how to do it. Basically, what you do, you've got a hot side and a cold side to that. So you plug your heat lamps into the heat side. You don't have to have anything plugged into the cold side. And then once you set you're going to have temperature limits where you set what you want it to be on the high side and what you want it to be on the cool side. So the theory is like these were made for like running like refrigerators and things like that. So the thought is, if you set a temperature of say 95 degrees on the hot side, then when it drops below 95 degrees, the hot side is going to kick on and kick your heat lamp on. You just hold the set button down. I think it's set button until it starts flashing, and then you can adjust it to whatever you want to. Hold the set button down again, and that sets the temperature on the hot side. I could try to see what I can do to get a video out on that. I haven't thought about that in a little while. I thought I did a video on it one time on the, I think it was the incubator. Yeah, I did a video on that one time, but I don't know if I went through like how to set it. I can't remember. It's been a long time. Let me take a look real quick and see if I can find that video and see if it does. I won't be able to watch it right now, so I can just give you the link to the video. You can watch it and see, or you may have already watched that video. So I don't know if that will help or not. Yep, there it is. All right, here is the link to that video. I don't remember if I actually went through like settings on that video or not, or if I was just bragging about the controller itself. But if you do a Google search for the manual, it brings up the manual. It tells you how to do it. And it's not too terribly complex. If you just go through the manual with it, you can figure it out pretty quick, probably. See, Alfred says, one of my quails laid a solid white egg earlier this morning. That was a first for me. My birds are Caturnix. That was my first solid white egg. That means they're out of toner. So, no, I'm kidding. That doesn't mean anything. It's just, I get solid white eggs every great once in a while. They're kind of interesting. It is an unusual thing, but it's nothing it doesn't mean anything. So, you can't see me says, how long does it usually take for quail to start laying eggs again after they stop? Yeah, probably a couple of weeks. I mean, it's, once you get them, settled into an area, you're not moving, you're not stressing them out. You get 14 hours a day of light on them. I'd give them a couple of weeks, probably 2.5 weeks before they really start laying again. Just have to be patient with them, unfortunately. Andy says, I meant fit better sideways. I wanted it to open down. I just couldn't get it to work. Oh, I get what you're saying. Couldn't get it to work opening down. I understand. That could be a little tricky for sure. Well, hopefully you don't have problems with the birds trying to come out of the door as soon as you open it up. Bianca says, Nick builds. I'm in Perth. Ours seem to, did I miss a comment from Nick or did I get that answered? Let me read this one. Maybe I did answer it. It says, I'm in Perth. Ours seem to stop laying a day or two if I let the food accidentally run out and get a bit stressed. That's a good point too. Just a thought. If you can't think of anything else, it could be. Yep. Yeah, for sure. That can stress them out too. Okay. Yeah, I think that was one I already responded to. Good. Thanks for the extra input. I appreciate that. Manny said, Alfred, that happened to me and I had a brown egg as well. I was guessing it happens from time to time. Yeah, it does happen from time to time quite a bit. So hi in the bread owl liked my toner jokes. Well, yeah, not many people like my jokes. I think I'm hilarious, but most people don't really think they're that funny. It's funny, I think the jokes that I have, usually people refer to them as dad jokes, but I've been telling them all my life. I haven't been a dad all my life. Anyway, Blessed with Pets is it okay that I already put the nest box in? I'm not exactly sure how far along she is, and they just said that they were sure she's bred and that she's been living together for about 2 weeks. She does not seem to use the nest as a litter box. Yeah, I wouldn't put it in yet. I'd wait till she's ready for it. And there's an easy way to tell when she's ready for it. Just go out there every day, every other day, take a handful of straw, not a whole huge handful, just a little bit, handful of straw, throw it in there And if she picks it up and has it hanging out both sides of her mouth, starts walking around the cage with it, it'll be pretty obvious she's ready for her nest box. Otherwise, you do have the chance that she's going to use it as a litter box, and I wouldn't put it in there until she's actually ready for it. Andy says, I was able to butcher some quail. I don't know. Was that a hard thing for you to do? I don't remember. I don't remember if we talked about that or not, but either way, I'm assuming by the way you said that, that means you were able to overcome that and you were able to get them butchered. Well, good job. Congratulations. That can be, if that's not something you're used to doing, that can definitely, the first time, can be very, very tricky. So good job getting over that. We'll see. Sage Wolf's talking to Nick, but says, I have one bird that lays an egg every other day. It was always laid huge eggs, is my guess as to why. Yeah, I guess that could be an issue. Makes sense. If you were laying huge eggs, you wouldn't want to lay them every day, would you? So, yeah, for sure. Take a day off in between. Jamie Mike says, just wonder if anyone has ever had a rabbit get out and you find it on top of the rabbit cages hanging. Hanging, huh? It says, LOL, meat rabbit. Because I think the typo on the rabbit part. Hanging on the top of the cage. I don't know what you mean by hanging. I don't know what that means with a rabbit. I've never seen a rabbit hang on anything. Hopefully you don't mean like hanging, like choked and hanging and you lost the rabbit. No, I've never had them get out and get on top of the cages. I've had them get out, but they've never gotten on top of the cages. They always go to the ground, when they get out. Blessed with Pets says, I give them a huge pile of hay every day year round. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Hang on, there's more to that. I'll get to that here in a minute. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I don't know that they'll nest with hay, though. I mean, you take a piece of straw and like I said, little handful of straw. It'll be really obvious when she's ready for her nest box. You can't miss it. You'll know exactly what's happening. And let's see. Jam and Mike says, LOL, rabbit, the cages are hanging in the air. Okay, so your hanging cages, not the rabbit is not hanging. The cages are hanging, and you found the rabbit got out and got on top of the cage. I've never had that happen. No, I can't imagine how that would. Miss Kitty says, I have one laying white every time. Yeah, that can happen too. You can't have birds that just lay white eggs. Hi, the Bread Owl says, just want to say thank you for your quail hutch build. Tons of videos of how other designs their grow out pins. But Chris, you've outdone yourself. I love mine. Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much for the kind comment. I'm so glad that you found that video helpful, and thank you very much for watching it. How are we doing on time here? Oh my gosh, we're going fast. We got 20 minutes left. All right, Andy says, not saying it's the easy thing, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I did about 10. Yeah, once you get over it, excuse me. Once you get over it, hang on, I got somebody spam this here. I need to get them out of here real quick. How do I do this? Remove. There we go. Report. And there we go. All right. Did we get rid of this person? There we go. There we go. Got that. All right. So sorry about that. We had somebody posting hot girls messages or something, so I had to get rid of them. All right. Where was I going? Okay. Yeah. Andy, sorry. Yeah. If it's your first time processing, I have people ask me that, like, how do you do it? How do you get over that? The first time doing that, it's stressful. It's, it's an uncomfortable thing to do. I mean, I'm a hunter. I've hunted all my life, but the first time I had to, dispatch an animal by hand, that's a different thing altogether. Just don't overthink it. Just do it, and try not to dwell on it too much. Don't make it more complex than it needs to be. It's like you said, it's not as hard as you think, but it's not the easy thing either, and it never should be easy. You should always do it with respect, and when it comes to a point where it's just super easy, then there's a problem, right? Miss Kitty says, or very pale blue. So white eggs or very pale blue eggs. Yeah, I get those too from time to time. And I've had birds that laid, like you said, a white egg or a kind of a pale bluish egg every time. Blessed with Pets says, my last rabbit nested with hay, and I use a 50-pound bag of Timothy hay from Tractor Supply. Well, use that then. Whenever you see her start doing that nesting behavior, that's time to throw the nest box in there. Past or I don't know. I don't know what your name says. Past. Is it Pastor? Oh, Pastor P.D. Smith. Is that it? Maybe I got it right. It's all one word, so it's hard for me to know. But anyway, we got it, I think. It says lost 11 quail today. Not sure what's going on. They're indoor. Anyone else having any problems? So these are adult quail indoor, and just 11 of them died. That would concern me. That would make me think that there's some kind of disease going around. Avian flu. There we go. Avian flu could be an issue. Coccidiosis could be an issue. There's a lot of different things, and not knowing what the symptoms are, any of those things, it would be really hard for me to know what to suggest it was. It says adult, yes, we have 90 quail total. Okay, so 90 quail total, that puts a little bit more into perspective. 11, it's not a huge percentage of them, but still, that's a pretty big number to lose in one day. So I would keep an eye on them, look pretty close, make sure. If you start having big losses like that, that points to disease, to illness, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, that would be a concern. Now, who knows? It may just be a weird, you just lost 11 birds. I mean, every once in a while I lose a bird, but I don't have 90 of them. So one bird out of mine is probably about the same percentage as 11 birds out of yours. So it may just be bad luck. But there's no reason that I can think of that you should be losing birds that regularly. I mean, you are going to, if you raise animals, you're going to lose one from time to time. And most of the time you just don't know why. It's just part of raising animals. It happens. There's lots of reasons why quail could die. But if it does start becoming a really often, like a big occurrence like that, where you're losing big groups of them every day, I would get somebody in there and get them tested for avian influenza, coccidiosis. There's a host of other things that could be causing problems, and you would need to get them checked out. All right, Blessed with Pets says, how often do I check up on my doe? You're going to know. I mean, she should display nesting behavior, a good day or two before she has her babies. So, once a day is fine. Once she starts displaying that nesting behavior, I'd keep a pretty close eye on her. Check her, morning, afternoon, evening, keep a pretty close eye on her there until she's had them. But yeah, you don't need to hover over her too much. Andy Rabbit says, look at your feed. Maybe that's a good suggestion. Make sure there's no mold in your feed. I didn't even think about that. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, check your feed. Make sure it's not moldy or something, because mold in the feed can do your animals in quite, it can be pretty bad for them. So yeah, check that and make sure that that's not the issue. Hi in the bread aisle says, what temp do you start out in the brooder when do you begin dropping the temp, and what should be your final range temp just before they hit the next stage for a grow out pen? Oh my gosh, there's a lot of questions there. No, I'm kidding. We're fine with that. We can answer it. Okay. So start them out. I want to move them from the incubator to a brooder box, 100 degrees, 99 degrees, right around there. And I keep it there for about the first week and a half, until they start feathering out. And then you can drop it about 10 degrees down to about 80 degrees. Watch your birds. They'll tell you if it's too cold or if it's too hot. If you've got your heat lamp on, always put your heat lamp on one end of the brooder so they can get away from it if they need to, and they're not stuck underneath it all the time. If your birds are all huddled up underneath the heat lamp, they're too cold. They need it a little bit warmer. If they're all spread out as far away from the heat lamp on the other side of the brooder as they can, it's too hot. They can stand it a little bit cooler. If they're just kind of moving around all over the cage like no big deal, they're not all huddled together, they're just moving around, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Now, what you find is, 100 degrees, I said move it down to 80. I meant move it down to 90. There we go. After about a week and a half, usually is when I do that. I'll bump it down to about 90 degrees. This is all Fahrenheit, by the way. And then, because I can't remember if you're in Australia or not, but I don't know Celsius. I'm a stupid American. I know Fahrenheit. So we're talking that. You're going to have to do the conversions. But drop it down 10 degrees, 90 degrees after a week and a half. Usually the first day or two, they're kind of a little huddled up underneath the heat lamp because they're a little bit chilly because, they just had a big temperature drop. And then, after about a day, 2 days, they're starting to meander around. No problems. They're perfectly comfortable with that. I'll give them 3 or 4 days of that, maybe a week, and then drop it down another 10 degrees. It depends on what the outside temperature is. Usually by about, during the summertime when the outside temperature is not getting below about 75 degrees or 65 to 70 degrees at night, by 2.5 weeks old, they're going outside to the outside. I'm bumping it down to 80, give them 3 or 4 days of that, bumping it down to 70, give them 2 or 3 days of that, and then they go outside to the brooder, 2.5 weeks old, somewhere right around in there. In the wintertime, when it's getting quite a bit colder than that, I'll keep them until they're, about 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere right around in there in the brooder. Just gradually drop that temperature down about every 4 days, 5 degrees at a time, until you're pretty acclimated to the outdoor temperature. And that's kind of how I do it. Jesse's got a question to you. Any sign of injury? And this is to Pastor P.D. Smith. Any sign of injury like a rat or mice could have got them? That's a good suggestion too. Bob wants to know, how do you clean the little giant? Isn't styrofoam a bit porous? It is. Don't stress too much about it though. So I'll wash mine out with Dawn dish soap and water. Wash it out pretty good. Let it soak just a little bit to get any kind of stuck on bits off of there. You don't have to get it sparkling clean. You don't have to get it 100% sanitized. It's okay. Wash it out with that. Let it air dry. I mixed it down with Listerine water mixture, 50% Listerine, 50% water. And you can even set it outside in the sun for 24 hours. Make sure it doesn't blow away. Make sure it's not going to get rained on or anything like that. Set it outside, the sun hitting, that's going to kill pretty much any kind of bacteria in there, and you're good to go. It's never going to get perfectly clean. It's always going to be stained. It's not a big deal though. It's not going to affect your hatches. So Pastor PD says no injury at all, or no injuries at all. We're baffled. Yeah, I don't blame you. Who knows? It may just be a fluke. Hopefully it is. Hopefully that's it. But if you start seeing like every day you're losing 5, 6, 10 birds a day, there's something going on there. And my guess would be disease of some kind. AJG says, let's see. Can quail eggs hatch at 100.5 degrees? Fine. Trying to set up my new little giant with a fan and a turner. I get 105 on the outer edges and 98 to 99 in the middle. Mid gets to 97 if I lower it to 99.5. 100.5 degrees is fine. They can hatch with that. So yeah, that's what I would go with. What I would actually go with is probably try to get the middle up to keep it up around 99.5 degrees, somewhere right around in there. So if that means, the outer edges, if you have to turn it up to 101 to get the middle up to about 99.5, that's okay too. Watch your hatches. If you start seeing like your hatches are early, like they're hatching on day 15, 16, that means your temperature is a little bit high. But that's probably going to be the right temperature. You're probably fine with that. 100.5 degrees is fine. You're going to do okay. Brian, see, I have a house inside the quail's cage. Is that okay for the quails? It is 2 houses in each side. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be. It should be fine. When you say houses, it's kind of like hide boxes is what I'm assuming. How are we doing on time? 10 minutes left. Like hide boxes is what I'm assuming, something they can get in. What you may want to do is make sure they have more than one exit, at least 2 exits out of it, so that you don't have like a bully bird that traps them inside the house and they can't get out. But yeah, houses, it would be fine. No problem. Jesse says to Pastor P.D. Smith, I agree. Illness or feed issue then. Definitely not normal to lose that many at once. I agree. But, again, don't freak out just on one occurrence. Give it another couple of days. See if you lose another big chunk at once. Well, that points to a problem. But who knows? There could be just kind of one-off situation. Never have that problem again. Who knows? Blessed with Pets, it says it's torturing me that I can't brush her right now. She bites when I touch her stomach. I take out each rabbit and brush them every day. It gives me the chance to bond with them and pose them and to make sure that there are no serious changes with them. Yeah, that is unfortunate for sure, but give her some time. She'll calm down and it'll be okay. Let's see. Pastor P.D. Smith says the only other thing I could think of is making sure nothing got in your water source. Well, that could be an option too. Probably less likely, but it's possible. Good thought, Jesse. Let's see. M00134000 says, how to know for sure if my rabbit is pregnant? Her stomach is not that big. Yeah, it's really hard to know for sure if a rabbit is pregnant. If you think she's pregnant, Give her 30 days. Well, 30 days from the date you think she got pregnant, and then throw a handful of straw in, not 30 days, 25 days, 26 days, and then throw a handful of straw in there. See if she starts hay stashing, running around with it hanging out both sides of her mouth. It'll be a pretty obvious thing. If she's just picking it up and throwing it around, nibbling on it and stuff, that's not what we're talking about. You'll know, like, oh, that's different behavior. That I've not seen that before. That's what, just do that. And if she does, she's probably pregnant. She's going to have babies that day or the next day. Put a nest box in. I would consider her pregnant if you think she is. You can try to palpate, but that's incredibly hard to do. And really, rabbits don't really show being pregnant. It's like you just wouldn't even know. Their stomachs don't typically get much bigger. There's not really a whole lot of signs. No way to know 100% for sure aside from palpating, which, like I said, is very hard to do. And unless you really know what you're doing, you're not going to get it right anyway. So I would just treat her, if you think she's pregnant, treat her as she's pregnant. Throw some straw in. If she, day 25-ish, throw a handful of straw in. If she doesn't hay stash, try it again on day 26 or 27. If she doesn't, try it again on day 28 or 29. Every day, every other day, try until you're about day 35, 36, somewhere right around in there. If she's still not hay stashing by then you're probably okay. She's not pregnant. You can go on. Let's see. Hi in the Bread House says, by the way, Chris, my first order was from Whiskey Tango Farms. Appreciate that. I already ordered another batch from my Shire Farm. Do you have another recommendation for a reliable breeder? Those are the two that really I've dealt with and had good results with, that I have personal experience with. I know, let's see, there's Southwest Game Birds. That's another one I think that is a pretty good, reliable. Sorry, got distracted by another comment. That's another good, reliable source. Oh, there's a couple of others out there too. I can't remember who they are, though. Somebody else in here will know, and they can give you a couple of other suggestions. But yeah, you can't go wrong with My Shire Farm. You can't go wrong with Whiskey Tango Farms. Both of those are good. The Gunner SM8. The Gunner's Mate. There we go. Got it. Took me a minute. Says, new to quail, I feed Purina game layer to my breeders and layers. Their poops are huge and not always dropping through the cage floor. I use the flooring you recommend. Any thoughts? You say not always. I don't know why. I don't know that the feed would make a huge difference on that. I do have some, sometimes the manure will stick in the cage, but it usually dries up and crumbles up and falls through, within a day or two anyway. It doesn't build up inside there. You may just have overly large birds, which is a good thing. You may end up having to kind of go to a little bit larger bird. I know, let's see, Dale from Dale's Quails, he uses a 1 inch by 1/2 inch coated wire on his cages. So you may have to upgrade your flooring a little bit. That's kind of expensive, but you only need it for the floor. You don't need it for the walls and the top or any of that kind of stuff. That may do that for you. He uses a coated wire, especially if you've got birds that are overly large. That's not a bad idea. It's a bigger diameter wire, a bigger gauge, and you're going to have less likely having issues with foot problems or any of those kinds of things. It'll be a lot easier to get the droppings to fall through. Bless with Pets says she only started biting 2 days after I got her, which was yesterday, but the first day I felt her stomach, and it's huge. So, well, yeah, I mean, good luck. Hopefully she has babies for you, and hopefully everything goes well. Sorry, I got distracted by another comment. That's why I kind of paused there for a minute. Let's see. Andrew says, where can I buy Listerine? I don't know where you're located, but I buy it at the Walgreens, Walmart. I mean, the local drugstores. Any place has gold Listerine. Let's see, do I have any? I don't have any. I've got some in a squirt bottle, but the bottle is gone. But I get the regular gold Listerine, Walmart, any of those places have it. And you can probably get it on Amazon too. There's a good idea too. Jesse says to AJG, says try wrapping a towel around the incubator. That helps insulate it and regulate the temp better. It's not a bad idea at all. That's a good idea. Now, what I would say, don't wrap it like around the lid necessarily, because you do need some airflow in there. But yeah, wrapping it around the sides and stuff, that can help, especially if it's in a temperature. I'm looking over at my incubator, especially if it's in an area where like you've got a heater vent or an air conditioner vent blowing on it or an open window. that maybe like the sun passes over and heats the incubator up during the day, any of those kinds of things. You really want to make sure you keep it in as stable of an environment as you can. But yeah, definitely wrapping some extra insulation around it is not going to hurt. Andy Rabbit says, I ordered from Southwest Game Birds. I thought you had. That reminds me. Or I remembered that, I should say. Brian says, yeah, they do have 2 exits. Thank you. Well, there you go. It sounds like you got a great setup there. Oh, how are we doing on time now? Oh, about 3 minutes left. See how many I can get through. Katrina says, hello, everyone from Gilroy, California. Sorry, I got sidetracked. That's okay. We're glad you made it anyway. Thank you. Katrina says, I plan to use a stethoscope from health class in high school to hear baby rabbits. Maybe I'll check them tomorrow. I don't know if that would work or not. That'd be interesting. Let us know how it goes. Gary B says, evening, Chris. Been listening while peeling a big batch of duck eggs. Haven't had that just hit me. Duck. Why have I never hard boiled a duck egg? That sounds fantastic. Anyway, says you've had some good questions tonight, folks. That lost 11 in one day would have me concerned, like someone mentioned the feed. Maybe, yeah, I would definitely check the feed. Check for any kind of mold or anything like that in the feed. Manny says, my rabbits, when they're pregnant, they get aggressive when you go to pat them. Yeah, that happens to some rabbits. This is not hang on, I got a scratch. Oh, that's a hard spot to reach too. That's not not all rabbits do that, but some rabbits do. And some rabbits change their personality drastically when they're pregnant or when they have babies. I've had rabbits that were kind of grumpy and hard to handle until they got pregnant and had babies. And then they were just easy as can be while they had babies. And then I've had rabbits that are the other way around, where they're just easy to handle all the time. And then as soon as they have babies, they are ferocious and you can't get your hands in there. So yeah, it's crazy. So every rabbit's a little bit different. Pastor P.D. Smith says, thanks, Chris and Jesse. No changes in the food. It's the same with no mold. Water source is the same. We use the hatching time cages. Must be a disease. Just unsure what they would, how they would get anything. There's lots of ways the disease can enter. But again, don't jump to the conclusion. It could just be a fluke. It could just be a one-time, who knows what happened kind of situation. Wait till it becomes a little bit of a bigger issue before you really start worrying about it too much. But yeah, that could very well be the issue. Hopefully not. But there are lots of ways that they can get disease. I mean, it could be carried in by rodents, by even some bugs could carry diseases in. Wild birds, I know you said they're inside, but who knows? Maybe you can have access to them somehow or another. Dandruff or dust or something like that from the wild birds that maybe carrying a disease got in there somehow. Who knows? There's a lot of different ways. Porcupine Acre says the lights trick working. Quail Lane after 10 days. Well, good deal. That sounds great. Yeah, that's about what I noticed. I mean, 10 to 14 days, somewhere right around there. It takes them that long to start laying again. Let's see. Bob says, thanks for what you do. Good evening. Well, thank you for watching the videos. I hope you're enjoying them. All right. We got some people talking to you. How are we doing on time? Right at time, isn't it? Probably a good time to end this. We got a bunch of people talking to each other. And so I think I'll wrap this one up here. Go spend some time with my family before it's time to go to bed. Thanks, guys, for joining me tonight. I always look forward to Thursday evenings, hanging out with you for a little while. It's a good time. I don't see any reason right now why I won't be here next Thursday evening. I'm trying to think of what's coming up, but I think we'll be good. So we'll see you guys next Thursday evening, hopefully. Thanks for joining me. Have a good night, everybody. And as always, God bless.